And thank you so very much for joining the webinar today. We're going to be discussing essentially what I think is a really great topic conversation. Essentially, we're going to be talking about what StorageCraft is offering as far as backup and data management. We're going to kind of highlight some of the tools that StorageCraft currently has to offer. And hopefully, we're going to be able to address a lot of the questions that you may have about what StorageCraft is currently doing out in the marketplace and how it is that we could actually help your organization to maintain, protect, store, and manage your data, particularly your critical data. By way of introductions, my name is Martin Merrill. I am a sales engineer with StorageCraft. I've been part of the company for a while now. I'm coming up on, actually, I just passed my 8-year mark. That's a lot longer than I had thought. I also wanted to also let you know and introduce one of my co-workers. His name is Rex Moffat. He's also one of the great sales engineers that we have here at StorageCraft, and he is going to be taking a look at the questions that come in during the course of the webinar today. So if you do have any questions, by way of a housekeeping item, please make sure that you take advantage of the little questions area that's found on that GoToMedium dashboard that's probably hanging off the side of your screen somewhere. If I do come across, as I'm doing the presentation, you've got questions, you want to learn a little bit more about something, feel free to drop us a question and we'll do the best we can to make sure we get those answered for you. We're going to go ahead and get started. As you can see, the title of our webinar today, the Next Generation Data Management and Data Protection Solution from StorageCraft. This is kind of a comprehensive webinar. We're going to be discussing the solution as a whole and the different components of the different products that StorageCraft has to offer, which actually makes up this solution to store, manage, and protect your critical data. Not just your critical data, but also your critical systems. All right, StorageCraft historically is a backup company. We back up and protect your critical systems, and not just data. We're not just doing file backup, but we can back up complete systems to be able to restore systems. And with a lot of what we've been doing over the past few years, we've added to that. We've got a fantastic solution we'll be addressing here called OneSafe that allows you to actually store unstructured data. In fact, that's what we're going to be kind of opening up with today. All right. In the technology world, we've been doing a lot. A lot has happened, right? I mean, looking, at the enterprise level, we've taken the ability to really increase performance on the enterprise level, to be able to do so much more in much less time. I mean, we can compute now faster than we've ever been able to do. We can now apply those to SMB markets. Multi-gig networks are things that we've constantly been able to do and minimize the time frame to work with. The ability to handle capacities, used to be just the enterprise level capabilities, but now we're currently offering that into the SMB space as well. But across all of that, what we're finding is that we're dealing more and more now with data. We're actually experiencing a data explosion. I mean, there's a lot of comments out there, a lot of things that I found written about how much data is being created, and we're finding, just given the stuff that we're doing with our cell phones, taking pictures, sending text, and all these kind of things, there is more data that is actually being created day in and day out than historically we've been able to, look at having been combined up to, just a couple of years ago. So we're really seeing a lot of data that is being added day in and day out. And when you consider the effect this is having on your organizations, I'm sure you're constantly looking at, okay, how am I going to manage all this? How am I going to store this? And, how is all this going to fit within my operating costs? And there's all sorts of different questions that you've got, not to mention, how am I going to protect this? And if I were to lose any of this, how am I going to get it back? And how long is it going to take me? And how is this going to affect my critical systems? So with this data explosion, we need to have a way in which we can manage that data. Right? Take a look at these facts right here. The source from IBM. Applications are getting more and more sophisticated. 90% of all the data has actually been produced in the last 2 years. Data is expected to grow 10 times as much as it is now within the next 5 years. So, we got to kind of keep an eye on this, right? We got to be able to make sure that we are managing that data growth in our own environment. Recognizing that this is a trend that really is not stopping. Right? A couple more details of some of the different challenges that we're running into. One thing I want to highlight here is that the real growth is actually coming in the form of what we call the unstructured data, right? Given that little graph that you're looking at right here, structured data would be considered the data that is actually found, say, in databases. There are some very specific devices that we might choose to handle our structured data so that we can have quick, immediate access to the facts that we need based on tables that are actually built, and the files are created in such a way that everything is formatted so for quick and easy access, right? That's not where the major growth is happening, though. If you take a look at that graph, you're going to find that unstructured data is where the real growth is happening. This incorporates your documents that you build, the marketing flyers, photos, sound bites, video, all these things that we're currently doing within our organizations that aren't necessarily tied to SQL, right? This is your unstructured data, and this is where the true growth happens. For structured data, there are specialized devices that handle those and do a very, very good job to provide the access to the data that you need. But what we're looking for is the ability to store and protect that unstructured data. You know, oftentimes when we're looking at SAN devices or other high-end devices in order to maintain that structured data, you know, oftentimes you really have to budget for it. It's going to really stretch your budgets in order to get into the devices that will really handle that. Well, I'm going to introduce to you as part of the data management protection solution that the StorageCraft has to offer. We're going to introduce you know, something that's probably going to be a whole lot more budget friendly. It's going to fit what your actual needs are with the ability to scale and grow as your data needs grow. But just take a look at that. I want to make sure that you're kind of digesting the fact that, you know, we're seeing that growth in the unstructured data and having something that can accommodate what we're dealing with here. You know, again, not just store it, but manage it, be able to access it, but also to protect it is really what we're going to be focusing on. All right. Oftentimes when we're dealing with, you know, how are we going to handle our storage, as you can see in that second half of the frame there, oftentimes we're dealing with multiple silos. You know, when we are trying to store our unstructured data, we're kind of hodgepodging a collection of different storage devices to be able to handle all of that data. We may have something for our marketing group, something for our sales group, something for development, but it's not necessarily a single managed solution, but instead disparate solutions that are found all throughout our organization, maybe at different sites, and all of them have to be managed independently and individually. If we could all bring that into a single management infrastructure, isn't that kind of what we're looking for as well? These are the types of things then that I want you to have on your mind as I am going through and sharing the presentation today. Not only do we need to find ways to actually store that unstructured data, keep it you know, keep it stored, give access to it, we got to protect it as well, right? As part of that unstructured data, we have to also realize there are critical systems that need to have access to that, that need to be able to work with that data. If those critical systems were to go down, you know, how is that going to affect us as well? That also needs to be part of what we consider our unstructured data, the actual ability to back up those critical systems, but then have the tools to be able to recover them. The different challenges that you're going to find when you're dealing with that is that, you know, there's always going to be some kind of downtime if we were to actually lose our data or lose any of those critical systems. If you take a look at the slide here, reasons for downtime could be any one of these different things. 56% though, of the downtime issues that you run into are usually just unexpected. You know, unexpected updates might cause a system to crash. Power outages, all right, that'll cause a system to fail. Then there's the real heavy stuff, fire or explosion, or even take that a little bit further. You know, floods, natural disasters. However, that only really represents only 26% of your actual downtime. If you actually look at the real reasons for your downtime, you're going to find that, you know, categorically, most of them are actually caused by human errors, right? And we need to be able to retrieve that data, you know, as quickly as we can. A nice other, you know, fact that we need to take a look at is that downtime costs money, and depending on how critical the system is, depending on what aspect of your organization this data is affecting, it really could be very, very costly to have downtime. Right. So if you take a look at that graph right here with large organizations, a single hour of downtime, you could be losing anywhere from, you know, $600 to in between $600 and $700,000 per hour to have a critical system be down. So if you don't have a solution in place to be able to get a system back online within that hour, you can find that your organization, you know, as those hours begin to add up, well, the cost continues to add up. Even in smaller organizations, small companies, an hour of downtime, you're still dealing with potentially up to $10,000 per hour that you can lose if your critical systems were to fail. On average, if you take a look at these other details, the number of downtime events in 12 months, as an average across all organizations that have been polled, every 12 months there's been about 3, almost 4 downtime events within 12 months, as an average across multiple sites that we polled. Time to recovery, it's more than a day, 27.1 hours tends to be the average. Now, we want to get that average down. If you consider that every hour, even for a small business, is $10,000, when you add that up to 27 hours, that can very possibly be a life-ending type of a scenario for a small business, and we don't want that, right? So, if anything, we'd like you to be able to put your mindset during the course of this webinar into how are we going to keep that data, how we're going to protect it, and then what tools do we have in order to bring this back online in scenarios where our solutions may become compromised, right? And that's what the StorageCraft solution is all about. In addition to that, we do have data security challenges that we have to deal with. So if you take a look at that little screenshot there, this is kind of typical of what you might see in a ransomware attack, right? Our data is vulnerable. We need to be able to protect it, not just while it's live within our critical systems, but also as we're storing it. We need to be able to protect it as well. Take a look at those those details about ransomware damages. $5 billion were paid out in 2017. It's actually growing now to almost 12 billion. Back in 2019, I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are here for 2020 yet. That probably, given the whole coronavirus thing, probably isn't a major focus on a lot of the different research that's being done. But I mean, take a look at that. 11.5 billion back in 2019. That other statistic, 77% of organizations have experienced a cyber attack while writing up-to-date security solutions. All right, these are organizations that are actually protecting and patching their systems, and 77% of them are still susceptible to virus attacks. Now, they may not all be ransomware attacks, but somewhere along the line, they're finding their data is becoming compromised. All right, and when you take a look at that as a situation that most organizations are experiencing, you can see that not only do we need to have the security protections in place, but having that data backed up and protected as well, so that we can recover in the event of these types of solutions or these types of scenarios also becomes of paramount importance. When it comes to dealing with the data security challenges that we have here, we have a couple of things that we need to probably address. First off, prevention. As your first line of defense, you want to protect those critical systems and data. Have a good backup plan, right? Remediation is your next line of defense. You want to be able to actually retrieve that data so that you can be functional again. This would include recovering individual files that might have been corrupted or encrypted or deleted accidentally, be able to recover them from backup, but even maybe just bringing up a critical system again. Backup isn't just now in terms of files and folders, but it is actually now can be considered and should be considered the recovery of complete systems and the ability to get them back online very, very quickly. Restoration, of course, is your last line of defense, kind of going back to what I was just mentioning, bringing complete systems back to the original state. So when it comes to these challenges, we can, address those by making sure that we are paying attention to these 3 lines of defense right here. Now, when it comes to StorageCraft, like I said, we've been in the backup disaster recovery business really from the very, very beginning. Our initial product was an image-based backup solution. We still offer it. It's metamorphized. I don't know exactly how to say that, but it is kind of changed and grown and matured into a really fantastic bulletproof product that does a great job at backing up individual machines. But we've added to that. We've expanded. We've made things easier to do, and these are the types of things that I'm going to be talking about. But let me give you a quick introduction to StorageCraft so that we can kind of all be on the same page and know what it is that we're doing. We are a provider of a complete data management and data protection solution. All right, within the different tools that StorageCraft has to offer, we can manage your backup data, or not just backup data, we can manage your data. We have the tools and we have the equipment now that we can store that unstructured data that is growing exponentially now, year over year, day over day, week over week, year over year, right? We can also protect that data. All right, we've got a number of different tools that can be deployed regardless of your situation to be able to protect your data. And I'm not talking just the data itself, not just the files, but complete systems that actually run and operate and power that data, right? And within those tools, we provide great capabilities for disaster recovery, being able to restore those critical systems, retrieve the data that we need, and get you back online as quick as possible. All right. The solution that we have put in place, you could say that it's modular, flexible, and future-proof. We're incredibly scalable. And what we're doing now with some of the products I'm going to be talking about shortly, future-proof, I think really does sum up very, very well what it is we're going to be able to do. Easily add additions, updates, and all of that to the solutions that we currently have. Now, StorageCraft as a whole has been around since 2003. We are a profitable company. We are privately held. We're not operating in the red. We can thankfully say that everything that we do is fully funded. We got a great team of individuals from the top all the way down, working very, very hard to keep this company profitable and to keep it progressing, putting out great products, making sure that we're providing what is needed from the clients that really are looking to us to make sure they've got the right solution in place. We are a global company. Our headquarters is based in Draper, Utah, which is just south of Salt Lake City, but we are represented in offices, scattered throughout the world. We've got major facilities in Europe. We've got a facility in Australia. We have great representation in all of the Pacific Rim, out in Asia as well. So we're not just a local company here in the United States, but we're represented worldwide. And we've got clients all over the world, and we're incredibly excited and grateful for that. We're a channel-focused company. We don't really do the business direct to the user, but instead we recognize there's some major benefits by operating with specialized partners scattered throughout, not just the country, not just in geographical territories, but throughout the world. And so we work very, very closely with them, and we are unable to, and we are very focused on making sure that they're successful. When they're successful, of course, we're successful, and we want to make sure that they've got all the tools that they need to be able to provide the services and products that their clients look to them for. We've got a great network of partners, and we're incredibly happy to say that we are a channel-focused company. Back in 2015, we did receive a great influx, a major investment in technology. So we've been able to utilize those funds and put out some really nice new development into the products that we already have, as well as being able to utilize those funds to put in a bunch of research and development and create even newer and better tools, of which we're actually going to be sharing with you today. So just note, we've been able to catch the attention of a number of investors who really felt that StorageCraft is the place to be when it comes to investing in future data management and protection. So we're excited about that. So you're going to find that StorageCraft is growing. We're growing year over year, month over month. We're a company that, from 2003 has grown into a global company, and we're continuing to see that trend happen. We have millions of servers and virtual machines that are currently protected. We're actually dealing with hundreds of petabytes now that are under management with StorageCraft's own cloud solutions, which we'll touch on a little bit here in the course of the webinar as well. Not only, can I say that, we've been around since 2003, we're global and all of that, but we've also been able to attract the attention of probably some pretty good names. You'll see on this list of our clients, probably some names that you'll recognize and go, oh, that's actually pretty good. Maybe you've done business with some of these organizations yourselves. Here locally, we're happy to say that we're a proud provider of backup and disaster solutions for BYU, down in Provo. Go Cougars, right? But take a look at some of these others, Kawasaki down, we got the Green Bay Packers and the LA Lakers, a whole number of great organizations across a number of different verticals, and probably just about any vertical that you can imagine. We probably have a small footprint at the very least represented in there, and we're very incredibly happy to say that. Let's go back real quick then and talk about how StorageCraft is channel focused. We're very channel oriented. We find that the group of partners that we work in, we don't work with just value-added resellers, those that go in and want to sell you the products, but we also work very, very closely. In fact, we have a large network of managed service providers as well. So we work as closely with them as they might be working with you or with a different end user to actually manage your IT infrastructure for your organization. We really can get that nitty-gritty and understanding what it is that our end users are needing simply by virtue of chatting with and getting to know and understanding the MSP and VAR businesses, so that we can exactly know what do our end users need. How is it that we can address that? We want to make sure that we've educated them appropriately. We are 100% dedicated to our partner success and their own business growth. Now, let's get to the quick nitty-gritty here. What are we talking about when we're talking about the StorageCraft data management and backup and disaster recovery solution? Right? You could consider it a whole suite of tools that can all be bound and tied together, in a single, unified, easy to manage solution. Each one of the different products that I'm talking about can be offered on its own, of course, but when you bring them all together, it's a complete solution, from a single pane of glass where you can manage your data, back it up, restore it, all within a single solution. But to kind of give you an idea, we have the ability, we have the tools that can protect, first of all, not just protect, but we can store your unstructured data. Let's start there. Our OneSafe device comes in many different flavors with a fantastic ability to expand and grow as your data needs grow. So we can start with that, a solution that you can implement to actually store your unstructured data and actually help you to manage that exponential growth. In addition to that, we offer data protection in the form of a product called ShadowSafe. We'll be touching on each one of these here in the course of the presentation. ShadowSafe can back up and protect virtual environments, physical machines, as complete systems. We can utilize that OneSafe device as the repository for storage of those critical, backups as well. Add to that the ability to replicate that data to other locations. A good backup and disaster recovery solution is going to require not just local storage of your data, not just local storage of your backups, but also the ability to take that data and place it someplace else, geographically distant, so that if you do lose everything locally, or you do have a local disaster, somebody makes a mistake and boom, you've lost a complete drive of data. Well, you can still be able to retrieve that from some off-site location. You can take advantage of tools that are available through Azure or through AWS, but also take note that we have our own cloud solution as well. Our cloud solution isn't just for storage, but it's actually been built for disaster recovery. We can bring systems online as virtual machines and host them in the StorageCraft cloud service. And when you take a look at all those tools together, not only then are we looking at backup and disaster recovery, but also it's a complete management and disaster recovery suite of tools. All right, so hopefully that kind of explains what our little graphic is here that you've been looking at. So now when it comes to the solution, as far as the different products now, let's touch on ShadowSafe first. ShadowSafe is it's the next generation backup and disaster recovery solution that we offer. All right, if you take a look at the different bullet points in here, you're going to find that this is it's a solution that provides agentless as well as agent-based data protection in virtual environments. Within virtual environments is how we actually deploy ShadowSafe. We'll go ahead and drop an instance of one system in your VMware or your Hyper-V environment. From in there, we'll be able to communicate and identify which machines are hosted VMs, and we can also put a backup agent on physical machines and bring those in and manage those as well. Anything that is actually hosted as a VM, we can actually do an agentless backup. We don't need any additional software within those virtual machines in order to create a backup. Physical machines, we do put a quick little agent in there, but it's very efficient, and we can still do a good, efficient VSS-based backup on physical machines. We offer reliable recovery, the ability to bring systems back online either by way of a bare metal restore to physical machines or an instant restore, an instant boot up directly from backup of virtual machines. Flexible recovery, being able to recover from virtual machines back to physical, physical to virtual, and even from physical to a different physical architecture, Dell machine to HP. We've got the ability to handle all of that and make sure the drivers are going to line up appropriately. Our instant recovery with virtual boot is compatible with your existing backup infrastructure. You don't have to back up to OneSafe. If you have a NAS in place and you want to utilize that as your storage repository for ShadowSafe, we can easily take advantage of that, no problem whatsoever. We offer within ShadowSafe an SLA-oriented workflow. We simply create backup policies, and you apply those policies based on what is needed for that particular machine. You'll build them so you can determine how frequently you want those backups to happen so that we can meet those RPO SLAs accordingly. And then we'll track against them with some of the analytic tools that we currently have. In addition, and within that same ShadowSafe framework, we offer another tool called OneSafe Solo. OneSafe Solo ties in to ShadowSafe as a device that can act as a standalone one system service node that you can simply drop at a client site, identify the machines that need to be protected, and immediately manage them by way of a hosted one system environment. It's still the same ShadowSafe environment that we're dealing with in a box. So OneSafe Solo is something that we have now recently released, and we're going to be updating it with the new ShadowSafe software. Every time the new ShadowSafe software release comes out, we're going to be able to update that accordingly. But essentially, as far as these bullet points go, you want to consider this a compact appliance that leverages the current and next generation ShadowSafe protection solution, enterprise class data protection software, plug and protect. It really is that easy. Take the box, plug it into the network, plug it into power, hit go, and you can claim that within your ShadowSafe environment. Offsite backup directly to the StorageCraft cloud. With the OneSafe Solo device, you don't need to have the local storage. If that is something that is out of the frame of what you can currently do at the moment, we can back up directly to the StorageCraft cloud so that we can have that data available to you at any time that you can actually restore with. Whether it's booting directly in the cloud as needed or retrieving it, to do restores locally, we can absolutely do that. It is a perfect fit for SMB customers, particularly those that are relatively small, don't have a whole lot of machines. It's very, very quick and easy to deploy, and we'd love an opportunity, I think, anybody here at StorageCraft have a conversation about OneSafe Solo. We do, like I said before, we do have the ability to back up your local data to the StorageCraft cloud, but guess what? We can actually back up cloud-based services as well. Specifically, we can back up Office 365 data and Google G Suite data with work being done to actually look at incorporating additional cloud-based services as well. Within Office 365, for example, which we're actually showing right here, we can protect, and save that data either to an Azure environment or an AWS environment the StorageCraft is currently contracted with. Automatic backups with granular recovery. We're able to provide easy to use a self-service model. You don't have to work with StorageCraft to get cloud backup to work. We have a quick and easy method to set it up, a portal that you can easily log into to be able to manage with those backups, identify which services, whether they need to be backed up, whether it's email, whether it's documents, whether it's contact information, anything that can be found in G Suite or Office 365, you can choose which users you protect and which data gets protected. You also have your choice of destination, whether you want to save that data to an Azure cloud, if you're currently utilizing and contracting with Azure for their storage, and take advantage of that. You could also, utilize the StorageCraft's default storage, where we're contacting the AWS to keep that data safe and sound. Add to that what I've already mentioned, our OneSafe scale-out platform. All right, OneSafe, just to kind of give you an introduction, OneSafe is really StorageCraft's first hardware device. This is a NAS device. It's incredibly scalable. In fact, we like to say and use the terminology that the OneSafe device is scale-out storage. Now, people will say, okay, that's great. What does that mean? Well, what's great about OneSafe and where this is really going to help to kind of combat that whole idea of that exponential growth and being able to manage that is that OneSafe has the ability to grow, to add storage as your needs grow. Traditionally and historically, as you look at the different products that are out there that you might already be familiar with, you're required essentially to buy so much storage, and either you have the budget for it or you don't. And when you do, you buy the storage, and this is the storage that you get, and you're going to use it all up at some point. It might last you 2 years, it might last you less than that, it might last a good long time, who really knows? But you have to have that budget to get it. But then what happens? You reach capacity, right? Now what do? Well, now you got to go out and you got to buy another one. Okay, so you got to buy another one, and you're stuck with the cost because you buy it as it is. Maybe it might even require a complete forklift upgrade. Remove what you've got and get something else. Well, when you're dealing with OneSafe, we're not like that. This is a converged scale-out solution. Converged meaning that we provide it with the ability to essentially utilize the ShadowSafe software right out of the box, right along with it. But if not, it's a fantastic standalone storage solution. But it fits really anywhere within your budget. You need storage, go get storage, add it as you need it. You fill a machine to capacity, yes, get a new device, but you can fill that initial device up with just a few drives as needed. What we're talking about is a scale-out architecture. Get the storage that you need as you need it. We have the ability within the way that it's been architected and structured to add new devices and simply create a cluster. We call it a OneSafe cluster, which essentially is represented as a little ring. That's kind of what we're looking at right in here. A ring can consist of as many as 7 devices all tied into each other. But the idea that you want to know is, once you purchase a OneSafe device, you can fill it full of drives. You can fill it halfway full of drives. They don't even have to be the same drives size. They don't have to be from the same manufacturer. You don't even have to get the drives from us. All right, we're building out the solution on a scale-out infrastructure that uses object-based storage, where we're actually saving that data as objects rather than, just bits and pieces of data that you're typically, familiar with when it comes to, file system storage. Dealing with saving data across multiple sectors. No, we're going to take each file, save it as an object, which is indexed and easily retrievable when the time actually comes. But because of that, we're able to allocate additional storage very, very quickly and easily. So again, just kind of help you wrap your minds around it. If you only have budget to get a chassis and a couple of drives, go ahead and go with that. That's going to manage your current needs. If you find later on that there's a sale on Western Digital, red drives, or whatever it is that you've currently got budget for, and you can see that your needs are going to grow over the next little bit, go ahead and get them. It's going to fit within your budget. Get what you need, add them, and without any additional management, without having to go in, we'll automatically recognize and scale out those the storage to be able to handle that. In addition, we're going to protect that data. The OneSafe device utilizes continuous data protection. Every 90 seconds, we're snapshotting the data that's found in there. And then you can go back to any point in time and actually retrieve and restore based on one of those snapshots, just in case you find that at some point in time, maybe some of that data becomes corrupted. You can revert back to any point in time of those snapshots to be able to restore from those snapshots. They're immutable. They cannot be changed. The snapshots themselves will never be affected by ransomware. They absolutely cannot be changed. So you can go back and restore from them at any point in time. And that's just found within the device itself. So the device that's held within the OneSafe is protected. Not to mention, you're not going to see any single point of failure. We are going to write that data multiple times within the device, which means that, okay, wow, we may be utilizing more storage, within this device in order to have that data written several times. Well, we combat that with the ability to actually, within the device itself, enable deduplication. Deduplication is actually something that is enabled by default within the machine, so that you can reclaim a lot of that, despite the fact that you're writing that data multiple times across, several drives in a single chassis, or if you begin to add additional machines into that cluster, we're going to write, a couple times across the cluster, and there'll never be that single point of failure. So if you lose a drive, you're not losing data. Just replace that drive and everything's fine. It's not RAID, right? So anyway, that's my little soapbox on OneSafe. It's a fantastic solution, and it fits in beautifully and is actually an integral part of the StorageCraft data management and data protection solution. So let's see if I cover all the different pieces in there. Yeah. So when you take a look at the solution as a whole, and to summarize things up, we are dealing with a solution that provides total business continuity, right? Within the ShadowSafe environment, one-click orchestrated failover application data and your network. All data protection solutions have tight integration with disaster recovery as a service, meaning that we can take advantage of those cloud services capabilities that we actually offer. Policy Setup provides disaster recovery as a service. Fast, identical restore experiences from the cloud. So in other words, you can actually retrieve data and restore directly from the cloud as easily as you would being able to retrieve or restore data from your local storage. And you actually get to choose your disaster recovery target. Not only can you save backup data to your local storage, but you can actually set up multiple locations to replicate that backup data too, whether it's the StorageCraft cloud, a private cloud, a public cloud, or some other disaster recovery site. You pretty much get to choose it. We should be able to implement it and bring that into your environment as part of the whole managed solution. So just to kind of, as we begin to wind down at least the slide portion of our presentation, let's take a quick look at, a nice little use case. Everybody hears about ransomware. How can we consider utilizing the StorageCraft solution in a ransomware type of a scenario. First of all, what does ransomware do? Well, ransomware it's kind of a catch-all term for any kind of malware that would actually go in and encrypt your backup data for ransom, for payment. A terrible black market organization wants to be able to extort you essentially for money. So they put a little virus on your machine, encrypts data, and then requires you to pay them in order for them to decrypt the data so that you can use it again. That's ransomware. Pretty nasty stuff. And what's really crazy is these guys, they actually have some kind of business ethic, because if you actually pay it, most of the time you get the data back. But not always, but most of the time you do. But what happens? You've been extorted. It's blackmail, so to speak, and now you're out. Who knows how much money? And it really is not a great situation to be in. But you don't have to worry about paying that ransom if you've got a good data management and data protection solution in place, right? So if we take a look at our use case here, recovery, using OneSafe, all right? First of all, OneSafe itself, if any of the data on OneSafe does become infected from ransomware, it's okay. That continuous data protection, CDP, those snapshots cannot be overwritten. They cannot be encrypted. So if you got OneSafe, you got CDP active, all you got to do is revert back to one of those snapshot points in time, and all that ransomware encryption is wiped out. You're completely recovered with the data that's actually on the OneSafe device itself. Recovery can be as close to the infection as possible. Recovery from backups. If it's one of your critical systems that has failed, you've got a series of files that have been encrypted, you can restore that data from your backup, whether it's data that you're going to retrieve from the cloud services or for some offsite location, or maybe just restoring from one of your local backups on a OneSafe device or other local storage that you've got. Just having a good, healthy backup, a good, healthy image-based backup is something that is going to benefit quite a bit. So again, you don't have to worry so much about ransomware if you've got a good, solid data management and data protection solution in place. Recovery from StorageCraft Cloud Services. I kind of jumped the gun by mentioning that already. But yeah, if malware is detected well after the infection, the backup images locally could also be corrupted. So having a backup strategy that includes off-site storage of those backups, which would include the StorageCraft Cloud, simply retrieve your data back from that off-site location, and you can actually, get things back up and running again. Another use case, protecting distributed location. All right, we're dealing with remote or branch offices for a distributed enterprise. The solution is incredibly scalable, meaning that across multiple sites, we can centralize the location that your one system is going to operate from. We can centralize that storage and yet still be able to manage backups of all those disparate offices that you might be dealing with. You want to maybe put OneSafe Solo on those remote offices, put the ShadowSafe in your branch offices, the larger offices, and maybe even include the OneSafe at your central site. Make sure that you're taking advantage of StorageCraft Cloud Services for disaster recovery as a service. And then, of course, one system will manage all of that. Within one system itself, we can actually, just jump into that. It'll see what's going on in these different branch office locations, remote offices, and bring them all in to be managed from a single pane of glass. And then there's no additional compromise on those service level agreements. You simply build the SLAs, you build those policies based on the SLAs that are needed and essentially let it go to work. So protecting distributed locations can still be done given the flexibility of the different tools that StorageCraft has to offer. So to wrap things up, as far as the presentation goes, because for the next 10 minutes after this, I'm going to give you a quick look at what our ShadowSafe environment, our one system environment looks like. But as a summary, when it comes to the StorageCraft solution as a whole, we can manage that explosive data growth. We can reduce downtime, and we can achieve total business continuity. We can protect against data security breaches, and we can simplify data management and data protection, and we can also reduce those costs and inefficiencies, probably much, much better than what you might already be dealing with. So we'd love to have an opportunity to continue the discussion with you, and I hope that this has been enough to start with to kind of wet your whistle so that we can have that conversation with you. We'd love an opportunity to really show you what it is that we can do for your environment. So again, I'm going to thank you very much for joining, but please don't leave yet, because I'm sure you want to see what StorageCraft One System actually looks like, right? And with that, let's go ahead and make that transition. I just want to point out before I jump into this, yes, we're winding down. If you have questions, please take advantage of that questions area on that GoToWebinar dashboard. Again, that's probably hanging off the side of your screen. Rex should be there helping to answer those questions. Anything that we don't get to by the time I'm ready to sign off, we'll go ahead and then maybe see if we can't quickly address as well. But anyway, we're making a quick transition. I'm going to give you just for the next 10-ish minutes, I'm going to show you what the OneSystem environment that powers ShadowSafe and integrates the ability to do everything I've just been talking about kind of really looks like. I'm about ready to log in here, okay? This is OneSystem. I'm going to log in with my demo account here. There we go. All right. So OneSystem is the single pane of glass environment that brings everything that I was talking about together. When you're looking at the StorageCraft data management and data protection solution as a whole, it's going to be managed by our OneSystem environment. Now, OneSystem is offered on its own as the actual deliverable of our ShadowSafe product. If you go with the OneSafe product and combine it with ShadowSafe, then of course, OneSystem is what's going to be used to manage that storage as well as provide that data protection. Within the backup policies I'll create here, we can set up not just backup to local storage, but also to the StorageCraft cloud. Now, I'm not going to get too comprehensive. This isn't necessarily, a training session, but I do want to highlight some of the capabilities that can be done in here. So when you first log in to ShadowSafe, you are going to be greeted with a dashboard that allows you to see the things that are probably most important to you. You know, how are my backups doing? Are they successful? You can actually see data protection status right over here. I've got 35 machines backing up. They're all healthy. If they weren't, I'd have a ring that isn't all green. There might be a portion of it that's red or yellow. So we can actually see what data protection status looks like. We can report on data usage across all the different sites, locations, branch offices, whatever, as I have storage that had been set up, storage repositories, shares on NAS devices, OneSafe devices. I can scroll through and see what I'm looking at, how much capacity is available versus how much is being used. We're going to track data change. How much data is added day in and day out? How much is deleted? What do my trends look like? We can actually track that as well. As backups are traversing from the machine that's being backed up to the storage location, what is my throughput currently looking like? We're going to track and be able to show what's happened within the last 15 minutes. If you're dealing with OneSafe, we can actually manage those clusters right in here. We can actually see what clusters we have, get status on them, create shares, manage the on and off of your CDP, check the deduplication ratios. All of that can be managed again by linking directly from OneSystem to see what the status of those devices look like. When it comes to protection, as I deploy ShadowSafe and the different OneSystems that are going to facilitate backup across the different locations that I have, I can log into OneSystem and see those machines that need to be backed up. Right? If they are backed up, I can see which backup policies have been applied, which now brings me to, well, how do I back up my machines within the environment? Is that an easy thing to do? Is it difficult to create backup policies? And then how difficult is that to be able to deploy those policies? Well, it does start by building a backup policy. So we have a little area for policies that you'll go to. All right. You can see I've got several policies that have already been created. But if I need to create a brand new policy, let's say I'm bringing a brand new branch on board online, or maybe I'm an MSP and I'm dealing with a brand new client, and I want to bring them on board and be able to protect their solutions. I'll go ahead and deploy ShadowSafe at their environment, and I'll introduce those machines into the environment, and I'll see them, and then I'll come over here and I'll add a new policy. We'll go ahead and call it a policy safe, maybe for ABC location or something like that. ABC, something like that, right? And then we'll say, okay, for all the machines that I'm going to apply this policy to, we want those machines to be backed up every 30 minutes. When I deploy this policy, of course, I'm going to have a brand new full backup that starts immediately. And then after that, we're going to follow this 30-minute schedule. Every 30 minutes, an additional backup will happen. And we're going to be able to keep those recovery points, consolidate them up at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, and also define the retention policy. Now, I could back up directly to the StorageCraft cloud, but I'm not going to do that in this case. Maybe I want to back up to an NFS share that I've got local to that ABC site. So I'll choose the correct destination, and then I'll say how long do I want to keep every 30-minute snapshot? How long do I want to keep the end of day recovery point, the end of week recovery point, the end of month recovery point? that happens daily, weekly, and monthly. Let's say I don't need 12 full months, maybe just 3 months, and maybe only most recent 2 weeks, but I do want to keep all of my daily roll-up machines, every 14. So I'll simply define all of this in my policy. And you know what? This really is not a fantastic solution because I have not sent this backup data to an offsite location yet. So I've actually created, an AWS target. I'm actually going to take advantage of some AWS storage and replicate to that. And let's make sure that I sync that on a daily basis. So not only am I going to be backing up to my NFS share locally, but I'm also going to back up at the end of each day to my AWS gateway with one of my consolidated daily files. Now that's a great policy. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I've got a policy that I could apply to any one of these brand new machines that I'm now going to want to protect. So I'll come back over here to protection, and let's just say that these machines right here, these two machines, these ones with the GSN, LGON, whatever that is, and let's say these are the machines of the new site that I want to be able to protect. I'll put a check mark in those machines, come up to assign policy. There's my ABC policy. All I have to do at this point is click on save, and it'll apply my ABC policy to those machines, and I'm done. So that is how I apply backup policies to my machines. Pretty quick and easy. Those machines will be backed up within the next minute. The next backup will be kicked off, and now I'm going to follow that 30-minute incremental schedule from that point forward. Quick and easy, right? Very simple to do. Now that you're probably saying, well, that's great. That's great. I can see how simple that is. But now when it comes to restore, you keep touting how important it is to be able to recover. What are the different tools that are offered there? Well, recovery is going to be done, again, from within one system. All you got to do is click on the little recovery area. You're going to get a list of all the machines that do have current backups running, all right, and the sites that they're associated with. But let's just say that my R5U33 bronze server, let's say this machine, has just crashed, and I need to restore. Now, it doesn't look like it's been backed up for the last little bit, but did have a backup here on June 5th, so I'm going to choose my June 5th as a recovery point. Now, before I do that, let me direct your attention to the top of my screen. I could restore this machine as a complete system, which is actually what I'm going to show you right now, but I could also go file recovery, meaning that I can open up that particular recovery point from June 5th and browse through, find the files that I need, and download them directly to my web browser. All right, so we do offer a file restore option where we can actually pull individual files directly from backup. But I'm going to introduce you to our system restore option because system recovery is typically the most challenging thing to do anyway, right? And I want to show you just how quick, easy, and efficient it is to bring up an instant restore, because this is one of the more powerful features, recovery features, that StorageCraft has to offer within one system. So we're going to assume, in fact, I'm going to make this real. My R5U33 bronze file, let's come into vSphere and find that. Here it is. All right. It's running. Let's say we need to power this guy. Oh, it's already powered off. Great. We're going to pretend that this guy is completely dead. All right. It's died. I need to restore it. VMDK file, whatever it is, it's become corrupted. This thing is no longer usable. So how do I get it back online? So I've come over here to restore recovery. I've chosen this file. I'm going to choose the correct recovery point, and then I'm going to choose my target type. I've got several different target types. Now, I keep talking about being able to boot directly from backup and have this thing running instantaneously. Well, that's our instant restore virtual boot option. But you don't have to go with that. Most likely you will, because that is really the most likely thing you're going to want to do. It's a critical machine. You got to get it up as quick as possible. But you can do a full restore first, meaning that we'll go ahead and build you a VMDK file, or we will build you a VHD file first before you boot it. This might be nice when you've got some time. It's a critical machine, but it's having it up within a time frame may not be as important. Maybe it's more important to simply rebuild it, boot it, test it, make sure everything's functional the way you want it before you actually make it your production machine. Okay, that's fine. The full VM restore is still an option for you. If you want to push out a restore to a physical machine, we have an agent restore that's great for that. You simply take your brand new physical machine, boot it up from the StorageCraft recovery agent, which will then register it with one system. You'll be able to click on recovery agent restore. That machine will show up right here, and you essentially hit go, and we'll push the recovery out to that physical machine. But I'm going to demo the instant restore. We're going to boot directly from backup, and you're going to see this machine ready to go. Literally, we're going to have a virtual machine running within the first few seconds. We'll go ahead and call this machine not just recovery. Looks like I've actually used these two names before. We'll go ahead and make this recovery _ webinar, indicating this is, there we go, recovery _ webinar. All right. Now you notice, in order to make this work, there's a couple of additional parameters I got to set up. I got to identify the correct host that's going to actually host this virtual machine. I got to make sure I've chosen the correct vSphere environment that'll help to manage all of this. And then primary storage, what I haven't mentioned about virtual boot is not only will we initially boot this virtual machine directly from my backup files without any prior restore option, converting of the data ahead of time, we have the ability, once that machine has booted, to actually migrate that data to a permanent VMDK file, or if this is in a Hyper-V environment, into a permanent VHD file. So we need to have a data store that we can actually build that VMDK file and actually store it on. And this let me tell you how that works. We built in some great read-ahead technology when this process happens. We'll read ahead to grab the information, the data that's necessary to initially boot this machine. But then once that machine is running, we'll start a background process to actually take that backup data, copy it over it, and convert it into a VMDK file, where it will then take a permanent home once it's completed. We'll stop reading from backup to run this VM and switch over seamlessly and start reading directly from that VMDK file. That's what we're doing here. We're also going to say how many CPUs, how much RAM we need, and which VM network we're going to tie this to so that everything's functional. So once you've entered these initial parameters, all we've got to do is hit next. It comes back and says, okay, let's confirm these are the parameters for this VM. That's correct. And then watch this. I'm ready to restore. I hit recover. It creates a new VM. Look at that. Instantaneously, it's building a new VM. If I come over here to my vSphere client, it has already built for me a recovery webinar VM container. All I have to do is wait a few extra seconds as it transfers the data into this container. In fact, I could probably hit my remote monitor now and actually watch this thing boot up. And there we go. Just like that, I have restored to the point where I have this machine booting up as a virtual machine. It'll just be another minute or so before this thing is completely booted up. It is now going to take the place of the machine that has failed. In the background, we're going to migrate that backup data into a permanent VMDK file, and you've only had to deal with, if you react fast enough, a few seconds worth of downtime, and we've got a machine ready to go again, right? That's just shows to you some of the power and beauty of what it is that we're able to do with the StorageCraft ShadowSafe OneSafe complete solution, right? I would love to say, I'd love to be able to take the time with you and go into StorageCraft Cloud Services and show you what OneSafe Solo can do and a number of all these different things. But as far as time goes, I think we've pretty much already exhausted everything. Yeah, we're just about to the point where I got to shut things down. But with that, I'm actually ending the presentation. I'm hoping that this is something that has answered a lot of the questions that you've currently had. And I'm certainly happy to give the next few minutes some additional time for you to ask additional questions that you might have. But as far as the demo goes, that's really pretty much what I wanted to show you today. Thank you so much for joining.